got introduced to Megha. I got introduced to Megha almost like 3 years back. I think Arundhati introduced us, and since then I've always been inspired by her ideas on various aspects of sustainability. So to be on a discussion with her is a real privilege. So welcome to SusTalks, Megha. I mean, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I have been following a lot of these talks and have been inspired and glad I'm here today.
Great, great. I'm glad you've been following Sus Mafia. The aim of Sus Mafia is to bring everybody together and be part of our vision in a mafia way. Jokes, joking. So yeah, I mean, Megha, first we want to start with your journey in climate action and sustainability. It would be great to know how it all started, and I mean, you've been in this longer than many people. So would like to hear from you about your journey.
Okay. So I'll actually backdate it to the decision that I took when I was just thinking of what should I do in life. That was trying to decide what I want to do after doing economics at graduation. And I was too adventurous at that point of time to say, okay, let's do environmental economics. And my parents and my relatives were like, what is this? What are you even thinking? And I wasn't, I mean, I was lucky and I think futuristic also to be able to do that. And we were just a batch of 10 people at Madras School of Economics. And a lot of people at the counseling session also were like, why is this girl so passionate about this course? Like, everybody was running behind financial economics, general economics. And I had come all the way from Delhi to Chennai just because this was the college that was affiliated to the Ministry of Environmental and Forestry at that point of time. And this is where the adventure started. Eventually grew into roles that were looking at very varied ecosystems. Started with the marine ecosystems, where I started with economic valuations. So it was actually a very quantitative way of starting in this space. So I was not really an environmentalist as such, but always try to connect how data can be, connected to environment, how a monetary value can be seen for the environment, when GEG accounting, how that could be done. So this was something that really fascinated me, and touched upon government organizations, worked with funding organizations, then experimented with, trying to connect in environmental as well as experimental economics. And now finally, that pushed me towards the energy sector. And currently I'm working, trying to see the equity angle as well as the environmental angle. And at ISC, I'm basically heading the Just Transition Department, where we are focusing on ensuring climate justice to vulnerable groups. And my focus area from the past 3 years has been supply chains, manufacturing units, MSMEs, and working very closely with businesses to help them build capacity for market-based mechanisms, getting them ready for things like carbon markets, how to actually ensure and leverage things that are coming up in the voluntary markets. So this has been the journey so far.
Wow, I mean, like ecology, environment, both have the common word eco, which is home, and you actually mastered both, doing your master's and you're in that field. So amazing. I mean, so actually can you tell us a bit about your organization for all, I mean, for our mafiosos who also know how they can be associated, Institute of Sustainable Communities. Before I jump into the supply chain, I just want to know from you, your organization a bit more.
Sure. So, Institute for Sustainable Communities is a do tank, and people haven't heard of do tanks as such. They always have heard of think tanks, but why I call us a do tank is because we are actually seen more as capacity builders and implementers as compared to policy advocacy folks, and work very closely with a bottom-up approach in mind. and ensure that we are at the top, like we are actually placed at the top of the grassroots, working with players on ground rather than having a top down approach. This has been a very interesting, being at ISC has been very interesting because after working in a lot of areas, this is one organization that sees climate from a climate justice aspect, where we try to include equity from every angle. So we have 6 offices around the globe. It's a US based think tank, and we have been there since 30 years. In India, we are comparatively new from the past 8 years only. And the Indian branch under ISC has mostly worked with OEMs and manufacturing folks in the energy aspect. And we do have a water and women division, which works in the agricultural and basically sustainable agriculture, regenerative agriculture kind of aspect.
Thank you so much. I think that helps our audience to know how they can be associated, especially in these areas that you mentioned. People might actually want to reach out, and hope you can connect our mafioso. Our goal is to multiply the impact, and people like you are the force multipliers. So, Megha, I mean, see, to be honest, my knowledge in this supply chain is very limited. So for me, it's a very educational session. So help me understand, help our mafiosos understand how does supply chain impact the overall decarbonization, and maybe touch upon a bit on, you mentioned also gender equity part, right? Would love to hear these points from you.
Okay. So something that has been happening not only post-COVID, but even pre-COVID, is that India is very willingly trying to be a manufacturing hub. And with this whole pandemic situation happening, with the Ukraine war, with basically pressure from a economic point of view, we see India as a hub to be able to be there at the right place, right time when it comes to ensuring that with this whole China plus policy coming up, India is very well placed to ensure this. At this current point of time, only 17% of the GDP is coming from the manufacturing, but there is a lot of projection that it can go much higher, and there's a lot of potential because there's focus now on digital as well as physical infrastructure gaining up. Then there is a lot of pressure from the government. I would say not pressure, I would say like a leveraging force for ensuring domestic, locally grown things in India, manufactured things in India. We are also ensuring to to see what resources are there. Like for example, recently a study was done by the Science and Technology Department, that there is scope for 18 specialty chemicals to be manufactured in India itself, because we do have those resources. So these kind of R&D is happening at a government level also, which I've seen this transition happening very fast in these last 5 to 10 years. This is one aspect. The other is India has been on the forefront to ensure that, we are committing to as much of climate consciousness, as much of climate action, whether it comes to meetings at COP, or it comes to these whole, trying to project ourselves as trying to be a green hydrogen hub, trying to be a hub for EV, ensuring that if you notice that in Southeast Asia, we're the only country who even has like a scrapping policy in place finally. So, a lot of things are in place when it comes to being sustainable and also trying to lead towards being a manufacturing hub. And this is where I get very excited thinking about it together, that we are still at a stage where these two things are happening in isolation, and policies are not still getting integrated to think of it like a collective thing. That is one weakness that we have when it even comes to what I'm working in currently, which is equity versus decarbonization. What I'm seeing even in the equity aspect is we have missed the bus. We as in the whole globe, not only India, we have missed the bus earlier when it was agricultural revolution or the industrial revolution. to ensure the untapped labor, which is the women force, which is literally 50% of your population around the globe. We haven't designed things in such a way that it ensures that it's agronomically friendly, women friendly, or even friendly from a sustainable angle to join policies or even technology for that matter, towards not only achieving a net zero goal, but an equitable net zero goal. So even at ISC, what we're trying to do is trying to see what could be the best framework for businesses to ensure that we are not only decarbonizing, because we do have a good 30 years where we are seeing systems are changing, businesses are changing, but we want to ensure that both these things can complement each other and help each other, grow together to actually achieve an equitable net zero goal maybe by 2070. So basically, what is the whole aim and the summary of this is that we want first to ensure that we are not only becoming a manufacturing hub, but it's actually ensuring to be a sustainable manufacturing hub. And one key takeaway that is coming out from what I'm working in currently towards equitable decarbonization is that we need to think of design and have a structural change towards thinking of things not happening in isolation, but more from an ecosystem based approach, more from a integrated approach, where we're thinking of, okay, today I don't want to only reach a particular net zero goal, but I want to see like a holistic aspect of it, and design policies or design my tech or design my way of business operations in such a manner.
So that's amazing, considering the fact that we all are startups in sustainability. In SusMafia, we're all entrepreneurs towards our vision to make sustainability the default choice. And MSME has not been an attractive sector, unfortunately, for many of us. But hearing we feel that there is a lot of hope to even to work with MSME. Personally, as running a company called Fluxgen, we have had very little success. Can you help us understand how we climate and sustainability entrepreneurs can work with MSME, and what are your thoughts, advice, suggestion, and how ISC can also help us?
So 3 quick takeaways when it comes to working with MSMEs. The biggest takeaway is MSMEs are they can be very quick and slow at decision making when it comes to making a change, because it's all about that financial constraint. But what we have realized is when you have conversations in such a manner that you're talking about how they could reduce their operation costs, because what they have faced in the last few years is that raw material costs are not reducing, fuel costs are not reducing, and there is so much of competition that even the profit margins are not rising as much as they used to. The other thing that's happening is the government, initially the mindset actually for every MSME owner is that from a blended finance point of view, that government agar hamar ko de degi thoda sa subsidy, then we are thinking of doing it. But otherwise they would not like to be the first movers to change. That has been like a problem area for every startup that we have tried to take towards the MSME sector. 2 things that have worked very well. One is now the MSMEs are sensitized, as well as I won't really use the word pressurized till now, because a lot of things haven't been mandated. But with OEMs, with clients, now coming up with things like Higg index, where you have to, because it's a voluntary thing, but the client says that ye form to bhar ke do at least, so that I can say that I will be able to reach my scope 3 emission targets, or I will be able to reach my social targets through you. So at least now there is this whole conversation about where larger clients are seeing MSMEs in their value chain, which was not the case earlier. And though OEMs don't want to still help when it comes to, not all OEMs, but if I generalize this statement, then no, they still don't want to commit or still don't want to ensure financial support, which is the main ask from these MSMEs for towards sustainability or towards proper social and governance, which is the ESG part that they need to start following. Nothing has really been mandated. It's still a world of voluntary standardization, and we are still relying a lot of incentivization. But the good part is that all these MSMEs are also, there are a lot of MSMEs that are also projected to export. And and when you go to a cluster where you're seeing at least 50% are exporting and maybe the rest of the 50 aren't, then there is this shift in the mindset that, now things like carbon border adjustment tax are coming. They feel the pressure. They feel the pressure of changing their brand value to show themselves as, okay, we are not totally net zero, but we are doing something about decarbonization, deforestation, or we're doing something about circularity. And finally, there are also things like the government also regulating things like, not ensuring that wastewater is just not getting flown out, and there are fines on it. So that way the narrative has changed a bit from a voluntary and a control command kind of a decision. But still, the biggest area of incentivization is two, which one is financial assistance and second is branding. Now, when it comes to financial assistance, what is the problem with the MSMEs? That they have relied mostly on the government schemes. And to be very honest, we do a lot of energy audits at ISC for these people to at least kickstart their work. Once you at least have a baseline, in what direction should you be able to help with clean technology or with circularity for an organization. And if you see NPC data, not even a single client comes from an MSME, but it's because organizations like us are forcing them or looking around for schemes or helping them ourselves with financial assistance for energy audits that they agree to even get it done. And it's not a regular practice, but the pollution market has made some way to be able to do some regulation and ensure that there is take up of the pollution norms. Now, if you go to Dahej in Gujarat, or Dahej is still like large companies, but even if you go to Ankleshwar, which is smaller companies, you will now start seeing digitalized formats of everybody projecting what their PPM is or how much of pollution they are throwing out. That narrative has changed only in the pollution sector because obviously the CPCBs have become a bit more proactive. There are fines on pollution. There is more regulation into it. And also in Gujarat, if you see, Chicago University did a lot of sensitization. Sorry, Chicago research think tank, not the university, did a lot of sensitization towards reducing pollution, and also came with a carbon pollution market, where they opened their eyes to, but if you start working on market-based mechanisms, you can have an additional source of revenue. So again, it goes back to people thinking of, मैं sustainability से profit कैसे बनाऊं? Like, can I price my product at a premium? Can I use carbon offsets to be able to, ensure that I'm making that extra revenue? So that has worked very well for us to at least start making these MSMEs a bit responsive and sensitize them.
So that means you're setting foundation for us to start working with them.
Definitely. The other demand that comes from the MSMEs themselves is that they do want to get connected to technology providers. So last year we had done, and some of these MSMEs in Tirupur, in Pune, in Ahmedabad were very excited. We went to Karnal also, but Karnal, a lot of, like, it's an easy accessible place. When you go to UP, when you go to Gujarat, when you go to Tamil Nadu, the interiors of these, like in Erode, for example, then they don't have easy access to after sales of clean tech, or even what kind of clean tech is available. So what we did last year is we conducted several road shows with not only one or two mainstream technologies, but with a variety of technologies. Something that really works with the MSME sector is a demand aggregation, because what the whole story is so far is that because they lack resources, because there is less space, um, so they prefer to share resources, have a pooled kind of a sharing system, and that has worked very well. I'll give you an example of what we did in Naroda with one of our clean tech provider. In fact, he was himself a textile owner and realized that textile needs a lot of coal, and they use big boilers. So he basically collaborated with Thermax and generated a common facility where and set pipelines across the MSMEs. Started with 10 MSMEs in Surat. Sachin cluster in Surat, and started supplying steam as a utility. So now this worked very well. I'll tell you why. Because one, boilers themselves are an expensive resource, and to get them changed or get them upgraded, I mean, though you do need to do it after a few years, like good amount of 30 years or 20 years, but everybody is using very old technologies when it comes to MSMEs. Here, it was a rental model where you just took that much of steam you needed and did not have to give that lump sum amount of capital that was paid. So these kind of models, like a demand aggregation model, works very well. It has worked very beautifully even with the solar PVs. If you think of it, there are associations, MSME associations, who pool in money and start a solar corporation. There's a lot of government incentive also when it comes to this. That is why they started as a different SPV themselves, and ensure that they could make profits even from this extra source. So anything where demand aggregation works is a good model that will work with MSMEs. The other thing, from an approach point of view, we have also tried to do bundled services and technology, because what is happening is, till the time you don't bundle up things like a green co certification or an energy audit or a after sales with a technology, the uptake is not that high. So it would be good for even clean tech owners to think of how their technology can be bundled with a service and bundled with a scheme that's existing to ensure that that service is taken. I'll give you an example on this. So if I have a waste heat recovery system as a clean tech provider, and I want to ensure that Pura Tirupur mein everybody has put that waste heat recovery system, my approach could be that I avail the P scheme, collaborate with the energy auditor, recommend, and most likely the energy auditor will recommend a waste heat recovery system. From the P scheme that is under the Ministry of DI, they basically get a subsidy to do an energy audit, which is a 75% subsidy. So you only have to, if an audit is for maybe 1 lakh or so, then you only end up paying 25,000. And once you have paid that 25,000 upfront, for example, and you have a recommendation of some technology, for example, waste heat recovery, then the MSME DI also gives you a 10 lakh discount for the recommendation coming out of the energy audit. So a bundled approach that way helps you generate that baseline, as well as ensures capital at a timely process, which is another problem with the MSMEs and the government schemes, to ensure that you can put up that technology. So there's less pressure on the MSME also, and there's more convincing capability from a clean tech provider point of view also.
So this is excellent. The example, I think you're referring to Vishal of Steam House when you mentioned about the Sachin. I've actually met him in Sachin, and I've met him multiple times. So I think that's a great example for all our mafiosos, like how somebody, an entrepreneur like all of us mafioso, ended up understanding the opportunity in MSME sector and provided. So talking of opportunities, I am super excited about the Parivartan event that is happening on 27 June, and many of us are also flying down to come there to make sure that we work with the MSME. I want to hear from the horse's mouth, right? I mean, I shouldn't be talking about Parivartan. You should be talking about Parivartan. That's your brainchild. So tell us about Parivartan, and most importantly, tell how our community will also benefit. You know, we are also doing the carbon date, so it'd be nice to hear from you on this event and carbon date also.
Okay, perfect. So pretty excited about Parivartan because I have been after going to several events. Something that I noticed happening was that the development sector only ends up attracting the government folks, not really the investors, not really the startups to that extent. Because I have done many such events like Parivartan previously, trying to get the MSMEs together, trying to get the clean tech providers together. And though last year we did feel very successful about the fact that we managed to do these several road shows and then have a big event. I still didn't see things fructify after the event as much from a business point of view. That is why this time what I want to try out is, and I feel it's going to go in a good direction, is that I want to create space, a networking space, which is going to be physical, like only a physical thing. I don't encourage online sessions when it comes to networking that much. To ensure that there's good cross pollination between policymakers, MSME owners, OEMs, where we get all the CSOs over there, where we get association members that can actually take calls of things on demand aggregation, ensure that they are able to meet the climate tech folks, along with them, the investors, because what is happening is we are getting stuck, like as an organization, we are getting stuck at 2 points of trying to find financial access for this green growth ecosystem. And if there is good joining of hands between the folks that are working at the government level, like SIDBI and TIFAC and IRADE, and the investors who are giving targeted equity to clean tech startups to ensure that there is scalability of an idea. We want to ensure that that scalability can happen two-sided. One is what's already happening through the startups. The other is how they can engage to a larger section of players like these MSME owners through the supply chain specifically. Like it would be great if like a Mahindra and the supply chain end up being clientele to the clean tech provider, because the scope of work can really increase for the clean tech provider. So the whole idea is to create a networking space at Parivartan to ensure that we're transforming the conversation of green growth and not working in isolation and increasing cross pollination. So for this we're trying all our events to be as interactive as possible, and Ganesh and Saksham have given brilliant ideas on how we could do it. We were thinking of having a carbon date where we basically try to matchmake clean tech providers, MSME association members, or MSMEs directly with investors as well as CSOs. So the whole idea is that we increase our business, like we increase our business focus and increase the avenue for business with these OEMs, with their supply chains, as well as startups that are thinking of investing rounds also, and can get an opportunity to at least start a dialogue with few investors. And we are very carefully trying to curate this in a manner that we understand what are the needs of the startups, and then try to match make them with mostly we are getting climate investors. We are also thinking of getting investors who are non-climate but want to enter the climate space, because what I've noticed when I go talk to funders is that there's a lot of scope for them also to explore the climate space. And I think something like a carbon date will really work. The other thing that we are trying to also bring to Parivartan is trying to get philanthropic funders, where we could have conversations of how, like a MacArthur and Thea Venture or Havana Capital can join hands and think of a blended kind of an approach when it comes to financing clean tech startups.
No, thank you so much for involving Sus Mafia for this event. And as I said, we've always been looking for working with the MSME, and having you as our ecosystem partner through Institute of Sustainable Communities is a great leverage for our members. And I'm pretty sure we will be able to at least start meeting a lot of these MSME, uh, and also the way you're bringing the investor community and the CSO, all this thing together is a unique sangam of people. And I think super excited. I'm personally excited. And of course, from Sas Mafia, Saksham is doing everything. I would also take his help in sharing the things from our side towards the end of today's conversation. So, see,
I'll add a
yeah.
little more about Parivartan. So this I just try to focus on the carbon dating session. That's mostly going to be organized by SAS Mafia itself. But we are also having sessions where we are going into conversations, on circularity when it comes to dry waste or wet waste, and also trying to understand how startups can scale what's the journey of startups from an idea stage to a scalability stage. So we have included Social Alpha in that session, where they are organizing a few of like they will like to take startups through that journey, help them. They're also coming up with a program which is focused on how startups can leverage the MSME sector. So till now they were working in the power sector from a decarbonization approach, and now they're going to work towards MSMEs. Then we have few government organizations like the DST and Niti Aayog, which would be organizing conversations around industrial decarbonization. So a lot of inputs and things about market-based mechanisms or what the policy regulations are would come out of it. Our main focus is also trying to get conversations around tech transfer. So we're really trying to pull in some international incubators as well as investors to have conversations, not only investors, but advisors to the government, like from Indonesia, from Denmark, from Germany, etc., where we could, talk, not only get restricted to India specific conversations, but could also think of tech transfer across beyond India. So that I feel would really like scale up the conversation to, not only if there are startups in this space who want to go beyond the Indian markets, I feel such conversations would really help. And the focus would be that, we try to focus on climate finance, technology adoption, innovation, and how we can ensure sustainability through decarbonization and circularity. On this,
Awesome.
maybe Ganesh can also give us like few points on, he's also conducting through Fluxgen a conversation around wastewater management. And I'd like if you could, talk to folks over here about that session also.
This session was entirely about you, but okay. But thanks for asking me. So super excited about the fact that you also, while you're talking about decarbonization, you're not looking from a very carbon tunnel vision. You're looking at a larger goal of sustainability, and that's what I think Institute of Sustainability Communities stands for, right? I mean, not just from the carbon point of view. So I'm happy to be hosting a session on wastewater management, and how do we tackle it from a MSME point of view. I mean, because MSME, as you rightly said, right? I mean, they are supposed to be zero liquid discharge compliant, and there are challenges associated, financial challenges associated to it, and various other challenges associated to it. And so how are we actually going to work with various stakeholders in achieving this sustainable water management, especially from the wastewater point of view. So I'll be hosting it's not a brainstorming session. In fact, it is the opposite of it. It's called a brains stilling session. So I've had the opportunity of doing this brain stilling session in various places. The aim of brain stilling session is collect information from everybody in a gathering, not necessarily people who have the loudest voice. So in a brainstorming session, I always been in some of the brainstorming session where I didn't have the courage to talk about my idea, but I just still always felt that my idea was good. In brainstorming session, we collect everybody's idea having a mug, and we will be collecting their ideas for each problem that each part of the problem that we'll be talking about, and putting it across on the board and reading it aloud and asking feedback from everybody and what they think about it, without even knowing whose idea it is, because we want the idea to be the king than the person ideator to be king. Unlike, I mean, we all live a very capitalist life many times. So I'm trying to bring a idea above all. And so, yeah, the goal is to actually bring in best ideas to solve water crisis rising out of wastewater. I mean, and how we convert the crisis into an opportunity. How wastewater is not waste, but it's actually water by itself, right? I mean, from the start of the universe, there's no drop of water that has increased or reduced, but we just contaminated it. So how do we ensure this contaminated water becomes part of our water value chain, right? And so that's the brainstorming session. I'm super excited. We are ideating, and I request people here to share your ideas. I'm always available. I mean, you would already have my number or on LinkedIn. So look forward for everybody's involvement in solving on this. I will be hoping Mansi from Digital Pani will also be joining. She's doing a lot of good work in it. And we have Karthik Chandrasekhar from Vision Earth Care doing a great job. Chandrasekhar, sir, I mean, he runs Watson. I'm hoping he can be joining. So we will ensure a lot of our startups coming in, and we have already been discussing of getting some of the CSOs involved in it, and corporates. I see Bhaskar from Veolia here, so we would request him also, and various other stakeholders, including, I think you would be help us getting the ULBs and other government stakeholders. And you already said Niti Aayog will be there. So yeah, I think this is again, Parivartan to me is a Sangam, not the Raj Kapoor movie. Sangam of all the good vibes of solving the problem of sustainability, not just only from the decarbonization, but from a holistic, sustainable transition point of view. So yeah, I mean, so I don't want to take away your show, Megha, but super happy to be involved in it. I just want to ask Saksham, time check. Where are we right now? I think we're already running out of time, Saksham.
We just about time. I think I can add a couple of things, and then probably we can open up the floor.
Yeah, I would love to hear. You've been in touch with the